Imagine you've just spent, I don't know, $20 million on state-of-the-art safety software for this massive, sprawling, multi-billion-dollar oil refinery.
Right. A huge investment.
Exactly. And you've got the spreadsheets, you have these automated dashboards glowing green on a giant screen in the control room, and you feel entirely in charge of the facility's risk.
You feel like you've got it all handled.
But what if that feeling of total control is, well, just a really dangerous illusion?
Yeah, that is the terrifying part.
Today, we are exploring a really fascinating industry document. It's titled, Why Hardware Barrier Management Projects Fail: The 10 Most Common Pitfalls.
It's such a brutal, honest look at the industry.
It really is. At its core, this document is all about how massive industrial organizations try to prevent catastrophic accidents and why their incredibly ambitious safety projects just frequently collapse under their own weight.
Even with the best intentions and, practically unlimited budgets.
Right. And you might be thinking, well, I don't run an oil refinery. Why should I care?
I mean, it's a fair question, but this deep dive is fundamentally about that tension between the illusion of control and actual verified control.
Exact.
It acts as this incredible masterclass in how complex systems fail. It shows us how to strip away the noise and prioritize what genuinely matters in, literally any high-stakes environment you might be dealing with.
Okay, let's unpack this. Before we can really talk about how these massive organizations successfully prevent major accidents, the document makes it super clear that we have to understand the architecture of their failures first.
You have to know what goes wrong.
And if you trace the anatomy of these project collapses, the most striking thing right out of the gate is that the root causes are, well, they're almost never technical.
Yeah, we aren't talking about a piece of software glitching here.
Exactly. Or a specific mechanical valve breaking because of some weird manufacturing defect.
The failures are overwhelmingly systemic. They are human and they're organizational.
So the document outlines these 10 common pitfalls, right?
Yeah, and rather than just giving a list, they describe this predictable life cycle of a doomed project. It usually starts before the software is even purchased.
Like day zero.
Exactly.
Yeah.
An organization decides they need better safety, so they launch this massive initiative, and this is a huge way, but their foundational data is a complete mess.
Oh, wow.
So they have what the text calls missing prerequisites. Like they don't even possess a complete, accurate register of the physical assets they are trying to protect.
Which means they are trying to build a digital twin of a facility without actually knowing what is bolted to the ground in reality.
Precisely. And then, according to the text, they compound that error by failing to define their work processes.
Meaning what, exactly?
Well, there are no manuals for the new system. There are no procedures for what a worker should do when things deviate from the ideal plan.
Right.
And this inevitably leads to another pitfall they mentioned, ineffective maintenance execution. The people actually turning the wrenches are just left completely in the dark.
And that ineffective maintenance doesn't mean the workers are lazy or unskilled, right?
Oh, absolutely not. It usually means they are paralyzed by a lack of clarity.
Which brings up one of the most critical pitfalls in the text unclear selection criteria, or what engineers call boundary conditions.
Yes, boundary conditions. This is a major concept that trips up almost every complex project out there.
I mean, a boundary condition is essentially the line in the sand that defines a system.
Exactly. Like, for example, say you have a massive, highly pressurized pipe that could cause a disaster if it bursts. The boundary condition determines what equipment attached to that pipe is genuinely safety critical.
Right, because where does it store?
Exactly. Is it just the emergency shutoff valve? Or what about the sensor attached to the valve? What about the electrical cable powering the sensor?
If you don't draw that line clearly, the scope just bleeds outward forever.
It never ends.
Yeah.
And you see this cascading failure continue in the other pitfalls they mentioned. Like organizations just ignore past learnings from similar failed projects.
They just repeat the same mistakes.
Yeah. And they lack basic project management discipline. So no stage gates, no actual key performance indicators.
Just flying blind.
And the human element is completely abandoned. There is zero change management, no stakeholder communication. Teams are just thrown into new roles without proper onboarding, and there's a massive lack of training.
Sounds like a nightmare.
It is. They also highlight missing end-user acceptance, which basically means the engineers never actually shake hands with the operators to confirm the system works for the people who use it every single day.
Right. So when you look at how these projects fall apart, you realize successful projects do the exact opposite.
Oh, totally. They don't start by shopping for tech.
They focus on the foundations before they ever touch the tools. They establish clear governance and rules before they start configuring those flashy software dashboards.
And most importantly, they demand deep ownership from the staff before they attempt any sort of automation.
Yeah.
They treat the human coordination as an absolute, non-negotiable prerequisite.
You know, let me offer an analogy here because the idea of foundations before tools is just so universally applicable.
Go for it.
It's like someone deciding they want to protect their family home, so they go out and buy a state-of-the-art $20,000 smart home security system.
Okay, sure.
They've got the AI cameras, the motion sensors, the automated floodlights, all of it. But they haven't actually bothered to install physical locks on the front door yet.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And the family hasn't even had a basic conversation about who is allowed to have the keys or the alarm codes.
Right. The $20,000 automation is worse than useless if the physical locks and the basic family governance aren't established first.
It just gives you a completely false sense of security.
Exactly. And the text really highlights that organizations that actually get this right use a deliberately collaborative approach. They refuse to just hand over a generic template or a shiny software tool.
They force everyone into the same room.
Yes. They force the reliability teams, the integrity teams, and the maintenance teams together to co-create these systems from the ground up.
Because the people who maintain the equipment have to actually build the system that governs the equipment.
Precisely.
Okay, so those pitfalls paint a pretty grim picture of the theory of why things break down. But we need to look at how this systemic failure actually manifests in a real-world facility.
Right, getting into the real-world application.
The document provides this fascinating look into this through case study 2, which highlights a massive, almost unbelievable scope problem.
Oh, the scope creep in this specific refinery is staggering. It perfectly illustrates the danger of missing those boundary conditions we just talked about.
Just absolutely staggering.
They describe a starting point at this facility, where there are roughly 350,000 individual equipment records labeled as safety critical.
Wait, okay, I'm looking at this 350,000 number, and I have to play devil's advocate for a second.
Okay, let's hear it.
Isn't over-labeling exactly what you want? I mean, if I am running a facility that processes highly volatile, explosive chemicals, I want my maintenance guys treating every single bolt, pipe, and sensor as an absolute critical priority.
Sure, that sounds logical at first.
Right. Like, why is thoroughness being framed as a failure here? Having 350,000 safety items sounds like a facility that takes its job very seriously.
What's fascinating here is a core philosophy laid out in the text, which completely flips that logic on its head.
Okay.
The document states, and this is a direct quote, "When everything is critical, nothing is."
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Think about the day-to-day reality for a maintenance worker trying to manage 350,000 critical items. You have equipment with a very marginal risk contribution, maybe, like a standard temperature gauge and a low-pressure water line.
Right, nothing crazy.
But it's being categorized and flagged with the exact same urgency as the massive blowout preventers that genuinely stop a catastrophic explosion.
So if I'm that maintenance worker holding a tablet, and I have 500 open alerts flashing red on my screen, and they all say critical safety hazard, I have literally no idea where to drive my truck first.
Exactly. You suffer from massive alarm fatigue.
Wow.
Maintenance just becomes this exercise in blindly checking boxes to clear the tablet, rather than an exercise in actual risk mitigation.
And the data going up the chain must be a mess.
Oh, completely. The performance indicators flowing up to leadership become incredibly noisy. The executives looking at the dashboard see thousands of work orders being closed.
So they think everything is great.
Yeah, giving them broad coverage on paper, but they have zero effective control in reality. If you ask the plant manager the most basic question, which specific pieces of equipment must function today to prevent a major accident and which are just nice to have, they couldn't answer you.
Because they haven't done the hard work of defining the boundaries. It isn't a data cleanup exercise. It is a fundamental risk definition exercise.
Right. The text describes this state as living in the unknown unknowns.
The unknown unknowns.
The risk is very real, and it is physically sitting out there in the plant, but it isn't fully understood or consciously managed by the organization.
So what did they do in case study 2?
They applied a structured framework. They got those cross-functional teams together, reliability, integrity, maintenance, and brutally interrogated every single item.
They really had to justify everything.
Yes. They asked, does this specific component independently prevent a major hazard? And by applying those strict boundaries, they reduced that massive list of 350,000 down to about 47,000 true safety-critical equipment items.
They just stripped away all the noise.
Yep.
And by doing that, they moved from unknown unknowns to known knowns. I mean, they didn't magically make the facility safer just by deleting rows on a spreadsheet.
Right. It's not a magic trick.
They reduced the overall risk because, for the first time, their maintenance crews knew exactly what genuinely prevented a disaster, and they could focus their finite resources on those 47,000 items.
But that clarity immediately introduces the next massive challenge.
Which is?
Well, once you have correctly identified your 47,000 true safety-critical items, how do you actually measure if they're doing their job?
Right.
You can't just fix a valve and walk away for 5 years. You need a systemic way to visualize the daily risk.
Which brings us to a concept in case study 1 called the process safety triangle.
Yes, the triangle.
The document uses this triangle to structure performance monitoring and, more importantly, to completely change the way corporate leadership talks about risk.
It's a game changer for leadership.
The process safety triangle is basically split into 3 distinct layers of measurement, right?
Exactly. At the very bottom, forming the wide base of the triangle, you have lagging indicators.
Okay, lagging.
Lagging indicators are purely reactive. They only reflect outcomes, not control. They are essentially a count of things that have already gone wrong. Spills, injuries, equipment failures that resulted in a shutdown.
Just a body count, basically.
Right. Now, moving up to the middle layer, you have leading indicators. These are a bit more proactive. They provide early warnings to the organization, but they still do not provide concrete assurance that you are safe. A leading indicator might be a metric showing that maintenance work orders are piling up faster than they can be closed.
So it's like a trend pointing in the wrong direction?
Exactly. And finally, at the very top, the peak of the triangle, is the barrier health indicator.
Barrier health.
This metric measures the actual verified physical effectiveness of your safety-critical equipment at this exact moment. According to the text, barrier health provides the absolute clearest signal of real risk control.
Because it's real time.
Right. The entire triangle operates on a fundamental principle quoted in the document. You cannot manage what you cannot see.
So what does this all mean in practice? I mean, the process safety triangle sounds incredibly corporate, but we are really just looking at 3 levels of reaction time.
Pretty much.
If we map this to driving a car down the highway, a lagging indicator is like looking at your crumpled front bumper to realize you just crashed into a concrete barrier.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to look at it.
It reflects a very real outcome, but it is way too late to do anything about it.
It relies entirely on the postmortem.
Right. Now, a leading indicator would be like your car's lane departure system aggressively beeping at you when your tires drift over the white line.
Okay, yeah.
It is an early warning that your behavior is getting risky, but it doesn't guarantee you won't crash if you ignore the beep.
This is just a hint.
But the barrier health indicator, that is like taking your car to a mechanic and physically inspecting the brake pads to ensure they have enough friction material to stop the car before you even put the key in the ignition.
Yes, the brake pads are the barrier. If the barrier health is degraded, the car is inherently unsafe, regardless of how many miles you've driven without an accident.
It doesn't matter what your track record is.
Exactly. And the reason this triangle is so vital is because it radically shifts boardroom dynamics. In most major companies, executives sit in a boardroom at the end of the month, pull up a chart of lagging indicators, and ask, what happened last month? How many accidents did we have?
Because lagging indicators are incredibly easy to chart. If the number of accidents last month was 0, everyone pats themselves on the back and assumes the facility is safe.
But 0 accidents doesn't mean you are safe. It might just mean you were incredibly lucky.
Wow. Yeah.
When you implement barrier health indicators, you are linking the performance of a specific physical valve directly to corporate oversight.
It totally flips the script.
The conversation completely transforms. Executives stop looking backwards and asking what happened. They start demanding real-time assurance. They ask, how strong are our physical barriers today? Are the brakes on this refinery actually going to work if we need them this afternoon?
That is an incredibly powerful shift in mindset. It moves from hoping you are safe to actually proving you are safe.
Yeah.
But I mean, setting up those metrics and creating that level of transparent visibility, that leads to a massive moment of reckoning for an organization.
Oh, absolutely.
We've defined the boundaries, we've set up the triangle, we know what the 47,000 items are. What happens the moment a company finally flips the switch, turns the lights on, and actually looks at their true barrier health for the very first time?
The reality can be absolutely terrifying for leadership,
Hmm.
but walking through that fear is entirely necessary.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Case Study 1 details a facility that applied a rigorous 18-step framework to identify and verify the health of their safety-critical equipment.
The 18-step framework, right?
They finally built the dashboards, they established the barrier health metrics, and they generated their initial baseline report.
Mm-hmm.
And that data exposed exactly 4,774 ineffective safety-critical equipment items.
Just let that sink in for a second. Put yourself in the shoes of the executive receiving that report.
I would panic.
Right. For years, you've been looking at lagging indicators telling you everything is mostly fine. Then a new system turns on, and it tells you that almost 5,000 critical safety barriers, the very things designed to prevent the facility from exploding, are currently broken, degraded, or entirely ineffective.
It's wild.
The sheer panic in that boardroom must have been palpable.
Okay.
The immediate instinct for a lot of leaders in that situation is to fire the safety manager who brought them the report.
Because it looks like a sudden, catastrophic loss of control on paper.
But the document makes a crucial distinction that leadership must understand. This massive spike in ineffective items did not represent a sudden loss of control.
Right.
The facility wasn't suddenly more dangerous that Tuesday than it was the previous Monday. This was simply the first time the organization had the visual tools to actually see its true level of exposure.
The risks were already there.
The broken valves, the corroded pipes, the faulty sensors, they were always there. They were just hidden in the noise of the unknown unknowns. The safety manager didn't break 4,774 items. They just finally mapped them.
They turned the lights on in a dark, messy room.
Exactly.
And what this organization did next is really the core lesson of this entire deep dive. They didn't panic. They didn't scrap the system. They systematically put their heads down and worked that number down.
They just did the work.
They cleared the backlog, and most importantly, they eventually maintained 0 ineffective items for more than 2 years without a rebound.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that lack of a rebound is the ultimate, undeniable proof of success.
Why is that?
The document explicitly points out that many organizations can temporarily drive their bad numbers down. We've all seen corporate environments where leadership declares a special safety month.
Oh yeah, banners everywhere.
Right. They throw a massive amount of money at the problem, hire dozens of temporary contractors, approve unlimited overtime, and just brute force the backlog down to 0 to make the charts look good.
But the moment executive attention shifts to the next quarterly crisis and the contractors go home, the numbers slowly creep right back up.
Precisely. A temporary campaign only fixes the symptoms, not the system.
Yeah.
The proof that this 18-month collaborative turnaround actually worked, that the 18-step framework fundamentally altered the DNA of the company, is the complete absence of that rebound.
It's stuck.
It proved that managing barrier health transitioned from being a temporary project driven by fear to becoming a permanent change in how the refinery operates day to day.
And we see that exact same sustained systemic success in Case Study 2.
Right, the one with the scope creep.
Yes. Remember, that was the facility that narrowed its scope from 350,000 noisy items down to 47,000 true critical items. Once they had that clear scope, they ran their diagnostics and found 283 impaired items.
Okay, 283.
Over the next year, as they continually tested their equipment, they actively managed an average of about 300 impaired items at any given time. I mean, things naturally break in a refinery.
Of course they do.
But they didn't let them stay broken. They repaired and restored everything as it happened, and within 12 months, they hit 0 impaired items.
And the detail you cannot overlook in Case Study 2 is that they detected and fixed these impairments within their normal operating cycle.
No heroic efforts needed.
Exactly. There were no extraordinary interventions. There was no administrative tolerance where a manager just signs waiver accepting a broken emergency valve for a few months because it's inconvenient to fix.
Right.
The daily work processes were finally functioning. The system itself was capable of detecting an impairment early, generating a clear work order, and getting a maintenance worker to correct it before the barrier completely lost its effectiveness.
It is a phenomenal achievement. What we are really talking about here is the grueling, unglamorous journey from paper compliance to people-driven action.
It's a huge culture shift.
It's about moving an entire corporate culture beyond assumptions, abandoning that dangerous illusion of control we talked about at the start, and demanding demonstrable, sustained assurance.
And that transition is exactly how this dense industrial document applies directly to you, the listener.
Yeah, let's bring it back to them.
The scale of an oil refinery makes the stakes incredibly high, obviously. But the underlying mechanisms of failure and success are universal. It truly does not matter if you are architecting a massive software platform, managing a remote team of designers, or just trying to organize your personal finances.
The same rules apply.
They do. You have to ruthlessly define clear boundary conditions. You have to verify your foundational data before you go out and buy the fancy automated tools.
Taking the time to build the locks before you buy the alarm system.
Exactly. It is the only way to move from just knowing your risks theoretically exist to actively and confidently controlling them.
Because, as the document states so clearly, you cannot manage what you cannot see.
This raises an important question, one I want to leave you with to ponder today.
Let's hear it.
Think about your own life, your own team, or your own business environment right now. What is your equivalent of those 350,000 overly broad safety items?
Oh, that's a great question.
What is creating so much daily noise, so many meaningless alerts, and so much busy work that it is actually blinding you to the handful of truly critical things, the real foundations that prevent your own personal or professional major accidents?
Are you spending your energy managing the illusion of control, or do you actually know the health of your true barriers? That is the real challenge.
It really is.
A huge thank you for joining us on this exploration today. Keep questioning your boundaries, keep verifying your foundations, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.